This client easily has $100,000 in 0% approvals, and with a 2-year corp, he's looking at $200,000 to $300,000 when he also applies for some business lines of credit as well. I'm about to take you behind the scenes on how I help business owners acquire the maximum amount of funding for their businesses. And in this video, you're going to watch me personally underwrite a credit profile and map out the funding strategy for a client to get 6 figures or more in 0% interest business funding. What's up, guys? If you're new to the channel, my name's Colin Matthew, and I'm the owner of Credit Veterans. If you want done-for-you business funding or credit repair with no upfront fees, click the link in the description below to learn more about that or my one-on-one and group mentorship packages. Let's hop right into it, guys. The first thing I'll do when I get a new client is review the client's credit report. And we're going to look to optimize their personal credit profile to make it look as attractive as possible for lenders so we can maximize the approval odds and maximize how much funding they're getting approved for. And we're also going to take note of any key relationships they have as we review the credit report. Typically, when I'm looking to optimize a credit report, this includes lowering utilization, removing any derogatory marks or excessive inquiries, and performing soft pull credit line increases on any accounts that offer it in order to beef up the credit profile. If the client has a thin credit profile with 3 or less credit cards or just store cards, no major bank relationships, I'll typically recommend a combination of adding authorized user trade lines as well as doing a round of personal funding instead of business funding so we can establish key relationships and build out their credit profile so that we could acquire much more funding in the future with business funding. This includes getting relationships such as Chase, American Express, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, US Bank, and more. I like to get a 3-bureau credit report from IdentityIQ for $1. While it does show the Vantage scores and not the FICO 8 bank scorecards that most banks use, the interface is the easiest to read for underwriting purposes in my opinion, and they have an option for the FICO 8 scores with MyScoreIQ as well. You can get your 3-bureau credit report for $1 in the description below. All right, so here's one of my clients in Idaho. They do have an H business, and their credit scores, as you can see, are around 730, 713, 723. This is a 3-bureau credit report from IdentityIQ. So we're going to go ahead and go to the summary of their accounts. Now, we can see all 3 bureaus, and we can see that total accounts across the board. They have 20, 20, and 22 accounts. They've kept more than half open, 15, 16, and 16, and they've only closed 5 or 4 or 6 accounts. I'm very pleased to see that. You want to keep open as many accounts as possible. It's going to build out your average credit age, and it's going to demonstrate to the banks that you have a lot of experience handling credits. Now, delinquency, derogatory, collection, and public records. The underwriters at the bank want to see zeros across the board. Delinquency means that the status of an account is currently not on time. Late 30 days, 60, 90, etc. Oftentimes, you may check your credit reports and see that you have a delinquency on there that's incorrect. A lot of the times, an old account that was late once will report as late 30 days, even though it's 2 or 3 years or been closed and paid off for a while. You might just want to make a free account with that particular bureau, TransUnion.com, Experian, Equifax.com. And while I typically do not recommend to dispute this online, something as simple as that, which is just easily proven to be inaccurate, you might just want to go ahead and dispute that online, get it cleaned up real quick. Derogatories, that could be late payments, that could be charged off accounts. It's usually nothing good. If you have anything here in these 3 categories or a bankruptcy under public records, you're going to want to go through credit repair. You could sign up at creditveterans.com. The first 2 months are free. We charge nothing up front. We'll work for you for free for the first 2 months, see some good results with our Metro 2 challenge letters, and we'll go from there on a monthly subscription, attacking whatever items you'd like us to attack. Now, his balances are fine. I've seen credit reports with as much as $1 million in debt. I've looked at over 1,000 credit reports. On average, I review about 5 credit reports a day for my clients. Now, the payments, this is the payments on all his debt, and this is where they're going to factor in his DTI. So if he were making $10,000 per month, his DTI would be 6%. $600 out of $10,000 per month income is a 6% DTI. That's not including if he has rent, right, or if he has a mortgage. Now, again, you're going to see a variance here on the balances. Sometimes an account will not report to one of the bureaus or all 3 bureaus. That happens. If it's a good trade line, you might want to call them up and ensure that they do report it so you can get credited on all 3 bureaus for that aged account. If not, don't worry about it. Public records, again, that's typically a bankruptcy. Again, if you have that, going to have to go through credit repair. Inquiries 5, 10, and 8. So overall, credit profile looks good. He has plenty of open accounts. He has zeros across the board for delinquency, derogatory, collection, public records. We really just need to ensure that every individual credit card is 30% or below. If not, he's going to have to either pay it down or consolidate the debt onto a personal loan in order to hide his utilization. The banks really want to see that you do not have excessive utilization. Anything 50% or more, even on an individual credit card, can either get you denied or get you approved for lower limits than you would get. The ideal credit utilization is going to be 10% or below for the biggest bang for your buck and the highest possible score increase. So they may have to remove some credit inquiries. If these inquiries in the last 6 to 12 months, I would typically advise them to remove it, especially if they are from denials. If they are from personal approvals, do keep in mind that can result in that credit account, that particular account getting deleted, right? So overall, very good credit report, great potential, scores of 700 to 730. This credit profile is definitely capable of getting at least $50,000 in funding. And once we optimize it, we can likely get him to 750 plus and get him into the six-figure funding range. So here's his first account. It's US Bank. So what does that mean? He has a credit card with US Bank for the last 2 years. He has a relationship with US Bank, and he should highly consider adding them to his 0% business funding sequence, because by having their personal card, he's more likely to be approved for their business card. US Bank primarily pulls Experian or Equifax for their 0% card, and if I'm not mistaken, it's around 0% for 18 or 20 months at the moment. They're a little conservative. They usually do not approve too high limits. He can probably get anywhere between 10 to 15,000 at the moment, but if he optimizes his credit profile, gets to 750 plus, he's looking between 15 to 25,000. And if he applies with a business relationship manager, he's looking at getting anywhere between $35,000 to $50,000 on a single 0% approval. That would already get us halfway towards the 100K mark. So with this card here, he's got a $12,500 limit, and he's using almost 50%, roughly 40% of this card. I would advise this client to pay this down. 10% would be $1,250, and 30% would be about $3,750, right? So to get to 30%, this account needs $1,100 in paydowns. That's the minimum I would advise, but ideally we'd like this to get this down to 10%. And again, we could get a personal loan to consolidate all his credit card debt, pay it all off to 10%, get his scores to 750 plus, and make him look a lot more attractive to lenders while saving the money on interest, because as you know, credit cards are about 30% interest, whereas the personal loans these days with a 700 plus credit score are anywhere between 10 to 15%. So it would likely lower his minimum payments. We can see his minimum payments all combined are around $900, but a personal loan for, let's say, $25,000 might be $600 or $700. So it could lower his minimum payments, save him money on interest, hide his utilization, and boost his scores to 750 plus, getting him much more funding. So I would highly recommend doing pay downs on this account. And if they offer it, call in and see if they can do a soft pull credit line increase to boost his credit limits. A lot of credit card companies have something called comparable credits. They will approve you for a similar limit to your highest limit on your personal credit report. For this reason, I advise everybody to try to get at least one $20,000 or $25,000 credit limit, so that when you apply for business funding, the banks can also approve you for similar limits on the business side. If your highest personal card is just $2,000, you're highly unlikely to get approved for $10,000 to $25,000 limits, because you have not demonstrated to the banks that you have experience handling those high limit cards, right? So everybody should seek to get at least one high limit card. But overall, great relationship here. You should definitely open the US Bank business checking account and consider applying for their business credit card. Next is Discover. We're not going to leverage this relationship because their business credit card reports to personal. They do, however, offer soft pull credit line increase every 30 days, which makes this a great starter card to accelerate the growth of a credit profile and to build your credit profile and get you your first high limit card if you're just new to the game and just starting out. They tend to pull Experian, if not Equifax, and they do offer that soft pull credit line increase every 30 days, like I said. He is over 50% utilized, so we would seek to pay this down to $1,600, which would require roughly $6,500 in pay down, $6,800 in pay downs, on top of, he already had to pay down roughly, if we wanted to get it to 1,000 or 30%, he'd have to pay this one down about 1,000. So he's already looking at about 7K in pay downs, right? If he wants to get this all down to 10%, right? 3K plus about 7. He's looking at about 10K to get it to 30. Or to 10%, and he's looking for about, I think, 7K, right, to get it down to 10 or 30%. So overall, Discover also offers personal loans up to $35,000, so they could be a good candidate for him to consolidate all his credit card debts. But yes, we would seek to pay this card down and then perhaps do a soft pull credit line increase it. Here's American Express, excellent relationship to have. It's a 2-year account here. That Discover is another 2-year account. It's a $7,500 limit, and the balance is roughly 10%, so no pay downs required. Amex also offers personal loans up to $40,000. This could be another opportunity to consolidate his credit card debt. Now, he has a relationship with Amex. He should definitely seek to pursue applying for 2 American Express business credit cards. I would typically recommend the Blue Cash and the Blue Plus. They're both 0% for 12 months, and they have no annual fee. Now, American Express typically does a double pull on Experian and TransUnion. I would typically freeze TransUnion so you don't have to undergo a double pull. They're typically fine just with a hard inquiry on Experian. I would not start out with American Express. I would typically save them after a few other Experian applications because they tend to be less inquiry sensitive than other banks such as Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, etc. Right? But he definitely has really great funding potential here, at least 10K per card, I would imagine. Likely 15 to 25,000, especially if we get him to 750 plus after we consolidate his debts. And with American Express, again, they typically offer soft pull credit line increase. So once he does pay downs on all his other cards, he could request a soft pull credit line increase. Typically, you can request triple the amount. So this could potentially go up to about 22.5. And why I would definitely recommend doing that is American Express allows you to transfer your personal limits to the business side. So let's say we did end up tripling this to 22K. He went ahead and got an Amex business card for 20K. He could call in and ask them to remove or move 20,000 from this new soft pull credit line increase 22K card over to his business card and bump up his business card from 20K to 40K. All at 0% for 12 months. That would be a huge win. So again, he's likely to get 2 Amex cards, roughly $15,000 to $20,000 each. So his funding potential at Amex is anywhere between $30,000 to perhaps $50,000. So just between his pre-existing relationship so far, US Bank and Amex, he's looking at getting around $60,000 to $90,000 in funding, which is a huge win for this client. Here's SyncB PayPal credit. It's a 5K limit. It is below 50%. It's roughly 30% utilized. It's a great aged trade line here. It's 8 years old. It's an individual account. He owns it. So nothing really has to happen here. If you wanted to pay it down to 10%, that would be roughly $500, right? Here's Capital One. It's another almost 8-year trade line. It's 5K. It's approaching 50%. He should seek to pay it down. Capital One offers soft pull credit line increase every 6 months, so he should definitely seek to increase his credit limit here. Now, their business cards reports are personal, and they like to do a triple hard pull when you apply for their business cards. For that reason, we hate you, Capital One. I'm sorry, but we're not going to leverage this relationship here. We would just optimize this account and move on. Wells Fargo, great relationship here. It's almost 10 years old, right? In about 3 more months. 5,500 limit. They typically offer soft pull credit line increase. I would definitely call in and ensure that it is verified it's a soft pull and request that to boost this account. Otherwise, it's approaching 50% as well, is roughly 40-35% or so. So not too much work needed here. To get it down to 10, it would have to be paid down to roughly $550. Wells Fargo offers personal loans up to $100,000 and sometimes with no income verification. For this reason, I would likely tell this client to get a personal loan to really just pay off all their credit cards. It looks like they have roughly almost 20K, maybe 30K if we keep scrolling. But I would likely advise them to pay off this entire credit card debt, right? That would really get them to the 750 plus and enable them to acquire much more funding and higher limit approvals. So with Wells Fargo, they tend to pull Experian. I would definitely open the Wells Fargo business checking account and apply for the business credit card. And if you have an H Corp, I would highly recommend applying for the business line of credit as well. He likely has upwards of 150K funding potential here between business credit card. Their business credit card is pending right now. It looks like they're coming out with a 0% for 20 months card. Other than that, it's great trade lines, almost 10 years old. He should definitely pursue a debt consolidation loan to lower his utilization. Here's a student loan. It's about 7 years old now. It's for $12,000. No problems there. There's no lates on it. It's clean. Here's another one, 7 years old. We're not too concerned with it. It looks like perhaps they're deferred. There's no monthly payment on it. As long as it's not over $100,000 in student loans, it's really not going to affect him too much, right? As far as the DTI, especially because it's reporting a $0 monthly payment. And as long as he does not have late payments on these student loans. So far, so good. A lot of people actually make a big mistake of paying off their student loans too early, especially if your student loans is adding significant amounts of age to your credit report. I see people with just 2 credit cards and then a 20-year student loan, and they pay off the student loan. And when it's closed, it no longer contributes age to your credit profile. And this can drop their score by upwards of 50 to 100 points. So if you have a thin credit profile, if your student loan is the foundation of your credit profile, I would typically not advise to pay it off early. So keep that in mind. Another student loan, 8 years old, 9K balance, no lates. Another student loan, this one's roughly 16 years old, 7K limit or 7K balance, no lates, looks fine. Another student loan, about $1,200. And it's a $15 monthly payment. Again, it's another 15-year trade line, 16-year trade line. Another student loan, 7K. This one's also, again, it's about 15 years old. There's another student loan for $1,400. We're going to breeze by the student loan for $2,800, no lates. Here's an auto loan. It's open, only on 2 bureaus, 13K with a monthly payment of $270. So he would want to search this bank up and see, do they offer business lending products? Because he likely has a relationship with them. And if they do, is the card 0%? Is their business line of credit no doc? If it's not 0%, then it's 15%. That's useless to us. We don't need a high interest credit card. If their business line of credit is full doc and terrible interest rates, then we don't care. But I would navigate over to their website and I would check that out very briefly. Another student loan. Here's Amex terminated close. So now we're moving into closed accounts. We're not concerned with closed accounts unless they're negative, unless they're charge off, repo, collection, foreclosure, late payment. So we're just going to breeze by these. The reason we're not concerned is because they're closed. They can't help you. They can only hurt you. Now, as far as inquiries are concerned, they're really only looking at inquiries in the last 6 to 12 months. For this guy, that would just be 3 inquiries. It looks like he's got 2 Experian and 1 TransUnion from US Bank. Again, if these are denials, he would seek to remove these. Other than that, he's got a series of inquiries here. You can see it appears a lot of them are for auto shopping. All of these are almost in the same range. Typically, lenders will look at all of these inquiries within a 21-day period of home or auto loan shopping as just 1 inquiry, right? So you don't have to worry about it too much. And then it looks like he went auto shopping again around this period as well. So overall, he does not really need to remove any inquiries. These are the ones in the last 12 months. It's up to him if he wanted to in order to further optimize. If they were for denials, it's a quick phone call to get them removed. So he may want to consider it. So overall, great credit profile. I would get the personal loan for roughly $15,000 to $25,000 and pay off all the credit card debts to get his utilization to 0% and to boost his scores all the way to 750 plus. I would leverage his pre-existing relationships such as US Bank and American Express and perhaps Wells Fargo. Those 3 lenders alone will likely get him at least 50K, perhaps 100K he's looking for.
Now, once I've determined they are eligible for funding and I've mapped out the best strategies for optimizing their credit profile, I like to head over to bankbranchlocator.com where I'll map out the best lenders in their area as well as which order to apply in for maximum funding. If the client has a 2-year LLC, also known as an aged corp, I will recommend some no documentation business lines of credit for them to apply with. And if they have 3 months of bank statements or they have revenue, I'll also recommend some low documentation business lines of credit as well. I like to start with business lines of credit before business credit cards because these can range anywhere between $50,000 to $100,000 each and can easily get my clients to 6 figures, if not multiple 6 figures in funding in just 1 or 2 approvals. If the client's LLC is under 2 years old, I'll typically just map out the best 0% funding sequence for them in their area, comprising of 2 to 4 approvals per bureau.
From there, we would navigate over to Bank Branch Locator. And this is where I would take a look and see what are the best banks in his area. So you can see right here, we got the top 50 banks in America: Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, PNC. And this client just so happens to be in Idaho. Not the best place for lending, only 30 banks. Some of my best states for funding would happen to be Florida, 185 banks out there, California, 182 banks out there. Delaware and Connecticut are great. They got a lot of no-doc business lines of credit. Georgia as well, right next to Florida over there. Another one would be New York, Pennsylvania, everything in that area. And I do like I like Washington and Oregon and Arizona on the West Coast. Those are all great. They have a few business lines of credit with no docs sprinkled in there as well. But those would probably be my top 10 that I like to get funding for my clients. A few other notable mentions would be Utah. They got some good banks out there as well. Colorado has some good banks out there as well. Some of the worst ones for funding I would have to say is Hawaii. You can see they only got 13 banks out there, so typically not recommended. Minnesota, a lot of local banks, as well as Louisiana and Oklahoma, Wyoming as well. Not too many lenders out there. But let's navigate on over to Idaho. He's only got 30 banks out there. You can see here's the top banks out there. If you guys watch my key bank video, he has an H Corp. He could likely get a 50K no-doc business line of credit from them, as well as a 0% card with either an Experian or Equifax pull. He should open the Chase Business checking account, consider getting a personal Chase card first to establish a relationship, and then pursue 2 Chase Business Inc. cards later down the road. He could likely get 0% for 12 months on each of those cards with at least 15 to 20K approved, looking at an additional 30 to 40K in funding. And if he applies through the relationship managers, he could be looking at an additional $50,000 per card and get upwards of almost 100K in funding from Chase alone. We already covered US Bank, Wells Fargo, and Key Bank. I would also recommend Umpqua and perhaps Columbia Bank. These are Elan financial cards. They're 0% for 18 months. You can apply online, and they typically just pull your TransUnion report. He could likely land an easy 15 to 20K on 2 of those cards, as well as Bank of America typically tends to pull TransUnion. They have 2 0% for 9 months card. They do sometimes ask for 3 months bank statements, but he could likely get 2 cards here. Again, he doesn't have a relationship. It would really benefit him to have a personal card with them as well. And he'd be looking at, if you apply through a relationship manager, anywhere between 25 to 50K per card as well. Otherwise, 5 to maybe 15 or $20,000 per card as well for 2 cards approved as well. A few other notable lenders, some online applications like Citizens Bank for their business card pulls Equifax, Truist if they're willing to lend in his area, 0% for 12 months as well. FMBO, maybe NIH, FCU, a few other softball cards like the GM Business Credit Card. This client easily has $100,000 in 0% approvals, and with a 2-year corp, he's looking at $200,000 to $300,000 when he also applies for some business lines of credit as well. So I hope you guys found this video valuable. If you want me to personally review your credit report and build out a funding action plan for you just like this, so we can get you $50,000 to $100,000 in approvals, you can consider signing up for my one-on-one coaching or my business funding group mentorship package. I personally review every single person's credit report just like this, and I map out the best banks for you to apply with so that you can get at least $50,000 in funding.
All right, guys, that pretty much wraps it up for this video. I just dropped some serious heat in that video, guys, and I would really greatly appreciate it if you could hit that like button and please drop a comment below. It could be anything. Guys, we have a saying in the Marine Corps, you motivate me and I'll motivate you, right? So if you guys want more videos like this, if you guys want me to create videos demonstrating all of my business funding knowledge and helping you guys master business funding and acquire $50,000 to $150,000 and even upwards of $500,000 in funding for you and your clients, I need you to drop a comment below and let me know that you guys enjoyed this video, because when you guys do, it really motivates me to drop some of my best stuff. This is Colin Matthew, guys, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Link in the description below for credit repair, no upfront fees, business funding, no upfront fees, and my business funding mentorship. If you want me to map out your funding plan just like in this video, feel free to sign up below. I look forward to seeing you guys on the next one.